Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Terra Nova and watched the massive space station grow larger on the main screen. The Galactic Council's central hub was bigger than any human city. Spinning rings of metal and glass stretched for miles in every direction. Thousands of alien ships moved around it like insects around a bright light. Jake felt nervous but tried not to show it. Today would change everything for humanity. After 30 years of careful contact with alien races, Earth was finally being invited to join the Galactic Council. Ambassador Lisa Grant stood beside him, checking her notes one more time. She wore her best diplomatic uniform and carried the signed treaties from Earth's government. "It's beautiful," Lisa said, looking at the station. "Hard to believe we're really here?" Jake nodded. The journey to this moment had been long. First contact happened when he was just a child. Strange ships had appeared in Earth's outer solar system, sending peaceful messages. The aliens called themselves the Villani. They were tall, graceful beings who spoke of wisdom and unity among the stars. Soon other races made contact. The Krex Empire sent military delegations, their reptilian warriors impressive in their battle armor. The ancient Zephyrians shared stories of civilizations that rose and fell over millions of years. The Torvak merchants brought exotic goods and technology that amazed human scientists. The mysterious Axiom Collective remained largely silent but watched everything with their glowing mechanical eyes. Each race had welcomed humanity in their own way. The Villani praised human art and philosophy. The Krex respected human military tactics and courage. The Zephyrians were fascinated by how quickly humans learned and adapted. The Torvak found human markets eager and profitable. Even the Axiom seemed to approve of human technological progress. Incoming transmission from Council. "Station Alpha," announced Lieutenant Amy Brooks from the communications station. Her voice carried excitement that matched everyone's feelings. The main screen changed to show a tall Villani with silver robes and glowing blue eyes. This was Korath, the prime leader of the council. His voice was smooth and musical when he spoke. "Welcome, Ambassador Grant and Commander Morrison. We have prepared a grand ceremony for humanity's induction into our council. Please dock at Bay 7 and prepare for the most important day in your species' history." Lisa smiled and bowed slightly. "Thank you, Prime Leader Korath. Humanity is honored by this invitation. We look forward to contributing to galactic peace and prosperity." The transmission ended and Jake began docking procedures. The Terra Nova was humanity's finest diplomatic vessel, but it looked tiny next to the alien ships around them. Krex battle cruisers bristled with weapons. Zephyrian science vessels glowed with strange energy fields. Torvik trade ships carried goods from across the galaxy. Axiom craft moved in perfect formations that hurt to watch too closely as they docked. Jake noticed something that made him frown. The alien ships were positioned in a pattern around the station. It looked almost like a blockade, but that couldn't be right. This was a celebration, not a military operation. "Something feels wrong," Jake whispered to Lisa as they prepared to leave the ship. Lisa looked around nervously. "Maybe it's just ceremony protocol. We don't understand their customs yet." They walked through the docking tube into the station. Thousands of aliens filled the massive central chamber. The walls were covered in symbols from every council race. Lights of every color created rainbow patterns on the ceiling. The air hummed with the sounds of dozens of different languages. Prime Leader Korath stood on a raised platform at the center of the chamber. His silver robe seemed to glow in the strange light. Around him stood representatives from all the major races. Krex generals in battle armor. Zephyrian scholars with ancient wisdom in their eyes. Torvak trade masters calculating profits. Axiom observers recording everything. "Beings of the galaxy," Korath's voice echoed through the chamber. "Today we witness a historic moment. The species known as humanity seeks to join our great council." Cheers erupted from the crowd. Lisa stepped forward, holding the treaty documents from Earth. She had practiced this speech hundreds of times. "On behalf of Earth and all humanity, I accept this invitation to join the Galactic Council. We offer our friendship, our knowledge, and our commitment to peace among the stars." Korath smiled, but something in his expression made Jake's skin crawl. The Prime Leader raised one hand and the chamber fell silent. "How touching," Korath said, his musical voice suddenly turning cold. "The primitive humans actually believe they are being invited as equals." Lisa's face went pale. "I don't understand." "The treaty clearly states." "The treaty is worthless paper," Korath interrupted. "Did you really think we would share power with a species barely advanced enough to leave their own solar system?" Jake's hand moved toward his sidearm, but Kreck's soldiers were already surrounding them. Their weapons were drawn and ready. More soldiers poured into the chamber from hidden passages. "You see," Korath continued, "humanity has been under study for 30 years. We needed to understand your technology, your military capabilities, your population centers. Every friendly contact, every cultural exchange, every trade agreement gave us more data." Lisa's voice shook with anger and fear. "The colonies, our people on the outer worlds, are already being processed," Korath said with casual cruelty. 12 human settlements have been secured in the past 6 hours. Your colonists are being prepared for relocation to work facilities. Those who resist are eliminated." Jake activated his emergency communicator, trying to send a warning to Earth. Static filled his earpiece. The aliens had jammed all human communications. "Your defensive fleet is also being dealt with as we speak," Korath added. Admiral Helen Torres and her ships walked into carefully prepared traps across 4 systems. "By now, most of your military assets have been destroyed or captured." The chamber erupted in alien voices, some cheering, others speaking in quick business-like tones. Jake realized this wasn't just betrayal. It was the efficient dismantling of human civilization. "Why?" Lisa asked, her diplomatic training barely keeping her voice steady. "Why pretend to be our friends?" A Krex general stepped forward, his scarred face twisted in what might have been a smile. "Your species showed promise. Your weapons technology, your adaptive abilities, your surprising tactical thinking. But you remained weak, trusting, naive. Perfect slaves for the galaxy's real rulers." Jake looked around desperately. Every exit was blocked by armed aliens. The Terra Nova was trapped in the docking bay, surrounded by enemy ships. Earth had no idea what was happening. Humanity's first day as a galactic civilization was becoming their last day as a free species. "Take them to holding cells," Korath ordered. "Keep the ambassador alive for now. She may be useful for broadcasting surrender messages to remaining human forces." As Krex soldiers forced them toward the exit, Jake caught Lisa's eye. Despite everything, she stood straight and proud. Whatever happened next, humanity would not beg for mercy from these creatures, but Jake also saw something else in her expression. A cold anger that reminded him why humans had survived every challenge their harsh world had thrown at them. The aliens might have won this battle, but they had made one crucial mistake. They had given humanity a reason for war. Admiral Helen Torres stood in the command center of Earth's orbital defense station and watched her world burn. The massive screen showed red dots disappearing one by one across the galaxy. Each dot represented thousands of human lives. Each silence meant another colony had fallen to the Council's betrayal. "New Boston is gone," reported Captain Sam Rivers from his position at the tactical station. His voice stayed steady, but his hands shook as he read the reports. Last transmission showed Krex drop ships landing at the main settlement, then nothing. Helen closed her eyes for a moment. New Boston had been home to her sister's family. 300,000 people lived in that colony. Now they were either dead or worse. The Council had made it clear that humans would make good slaves. What about the Kepler mining stations? Helen asked. "Silent for 2 hours," Sam replied. "Same pattern everywhere. The aliens hit our communication arrays first, then our defense platforms, then the settlements themselves." Lieutenant Commander Amy Brooks burst into the command center. Her uniform was torn and burned. Blood ran from a cut on her forehead. She had barely escaped the destruction of her cruiser Liberty Bell in the Vega system. "Admiral, it's a massacre." Out there, Amy gasped, trying to catch her breath. They were waiting for us. Every fleet position, every patrol route, every supply depot. They knew exactly where we would be. Helen helped Amy to a chair and handed her water. How many ships did we lose? All of them, Amy said quietly. The entire Third Fleet is gone. Admiral Martinez went down with the Constellation. The Fifth Fleet lasted maybe 10 minutes before the Kreks overwhelmed them. I only survived because my ship's engines were damaged and we fell behind the main formation. The command center fell silent except for the steady beeping of sensors and the quiet voices of technicians coordinating Earth's defense. Helen looked at the tactical display showing their remaining forces. 12 ships orbited Earth. The Council had sent over 300 vessels to finish humanity. They're not just conquering us, Helen realized. They're exterminating us, reports continued flowing in from across human space. On the colony world of New Seattle, civilian administrator Carl Jensen had managed to get one message through before the communications went dark. Krek soldiers were herding families into transport ships. Anyone who fought back was shot immediately. Children cried for parents who would never answer again. The pattern was the same everywhere. The aliens showed no interest in negotiation or surrender. They took what they wanted and killed the rest. 30 years of peaceful contact had been a lie designed to map human weaknesses and plan this systematic destruction. Admiral, called the communications officer, we're receiving a transmission from the Council station. The main screen flickered to show Prime Leader Korath. His silver robes were spotless and his expression was calm. Behind him stood Ambassador Lisa Grant in chains. She had been beaten, but her eyes still burned with defiance. Admiral Torres, Korath spoke in his musical voice. As you can see, your diplomatic mission has failed. Your ambassador will now read a message of surrender to any surviving human forces. Lisa was pushed forward by a Krex guard. She looked directly into the camera and spoke clearly. This is Ambassador Lisa Grant. Do not surrender. Do not negotiate. Remember what they have done to our people. Make them pay for every human life. The transmission cut off abruptly. Helen felt a cold rage building in her chest. The aliens had made their intentions clear. There would be no mercy, no quarter, no survival for humanity unless they fought. Back with everything they had. Get me President Coleman on the secure channel, Helen ordered. The screen changed to show President Frank Coleman in the underground command bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains. His gray hair was disheveled, and his face showed the strain of watching his species face extinction. Helen, thank God you're still alive, Frank said. How bad is it out there? We've lost everything, Mr. President. 80% of our military assets are gone. The colonies are being systematically destroyed. They're not interested in conquest. This is genocide. Frank nodded grimly. Then we moved to Protocol 7. Helen felt her blood run cold. Protocol 7 was the plan no one ever wanted to use. It had been developed in secret over 20 years ago when humanity first detected signs of aggressive alien civilizations. The plan assumed the worst-case scenario, that humanity would face extinction and need to respond with every weapon they possessed. Sir, are you certain? Once we activate Protocol 7, there's no going back. They've already made that choice for us, Frank replied. Get me Dr. Stone. The screen split to show Dr. Rachel Stone in her laboratory deep beneath Cheyenne Mountain. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and graying hair. Behind her, banks of computers hummed with activity. This was Project Lazarus, humanity's most closely guarded secret. Mr. President, I've been monitoring the situation, Dr. Stone said. Project Lazarus is ready for activation. All systems are green. We can begin Phase 1 immediately. Do it, Frank ordered. And Rachel, make sure they understand what they've awakened. Dr. Stone's fingers flew over her keyboard. Across Earth, hidden facilities began powering up systems that had waited decades for this moment. In asteroid fields throughout the solar system, automated factories started building weapons that no alien race had ever imagined. Admiral Torres, Dr. Stone said, you need to fall back to the Luna base immediately. Take whatever ships you can save. The Sol system is about to become very dangerous for everyone. Helen looked at her remaining ships on the tactical display. 12 vessels against an alien armada of hundreds. It seemed hopeless, but something in Dr. Stone's voice suggested that humanity still had cards to play. "All ships, this is Admiral Torres," Helen broadcast on the fleet frequency. "Withdraw to Luna Base immediately. Execute emergency burn. We're not running away, we're regrouping." As her ships began their retreat from Earth orbit, Helen watched the alien fleet advancing toward humanity's homeworld. The Council thought they had broken human resistance. They believed the war was already over, but Helen remembered something her grandfather had told her about the old wars on Earth. The most dangerous moment in any battle was when you thought you had already won. The aliens were about to learn that humanity's greatest strength was not their technology or their military. It was their absolute refusal to accept defeat. The Council had started this war with a surprise attack designed to cripple humanity before they could respond. What they had actually done was give Earth's leaders the justification to unleash weapons and tactics that had been held in reserve. For exactly this scenario, the aliens thought they were conquering a primitive species they were about to discover. They had declared war on a race that had been quietly preparing for this fight for decades. 3 months had passed since the Council's attack on humanity. Krex General Thurix stood in his command center on the occupied world of New Boston and reviewed the intelligence reports with satisfaction. The human resistance was weak and scattered. Most of their military leaders were dead or captured. Their colonies had been stripped of useful resources and their populations relocated to work camps. "Status report on human activity," Thurix growled to his intelligence officer. "Minimal resistance, General," the younger Krex replied. "A few small raids on supply convoys. Nothing organized or threatening. The humans appear broken." Thurix nodded with approval. This conquest had been easier than expected. Humans were soft creatures who relied too heavily on technology and diplomacy. Once their fleets were destroyed and their leaders eliminated, the rest had collapsed quickly, but Thurix was wrong about many things. Deep in the asteroid fields of the Kepler system, Commander Jake Morrison was very much alive. He floated in the command center of a ship that should not have existed. The vessel had no name on its hull and no registration codes. It was completely black and seemed to bend light around its edges. "Ghost leader to all units," Jake spoke into his communicator. "Final systems check complete. All ships report ready." Status. One by one, voices responded from the darkness around him. Ships that had been hidden in asteroid fields and deep space stations for over 20 years were finally moving. The Ghost Fleet consisted of vessels built in secret by Project Lazarus, using technology that made Council weapons look primitive. Dr. Marcus Webb had spent his entire career preparing for this day. As head of Earth's Advanced Weapons Division, he had worked with engineer Kelly Barnes and her team to create ships that could phase between dimensions, weapons that disrupted matter at the quantum level, and AI systems that could outthink any organic mind. "Jake, this is Marcus," Dr. Webb's voice came through the secure channel. "You have full authorization for Phase 2 operations. Make them understand what they have awakened." Jake smiled grimly as he looked at the tactical display. 50 Ghost ships were positioned throughout Council space, invisible to alien sensors. Each vessel carried weapons that could destroy entire fleets. More importantly, they carried the concentrated rage of humanity's survivors. The first target was the Krex occupation force on New Boston. General Thurix was reviewing supply reports when his communications officer suddenly looked confused. "General, we've lost contact with Forward Base 7, the officer reported. "Equipment malfunction," Thurix replied without concern. "Send repair team." "Sir, Forward Base 8 is also offline?" "And Forward Base 9? Thurix looked up from his reports. Something cold settled in his stomach. "How many bases are offline?" "All of them, General. 15 forward positions have gone silent in the past 10 minutes. Thurix activated his personal communicator to contact his field commanders. Only static answered him. He tried the orbital defense platforms. Nothing. the main communication array on the other side of the continent. Silence. Get me visual contact with any of our positions. Thurix ordered. The main screen showed feeds from automated surveillance cameras throughout the human settlement. Every Krex position was empty. Not destroyed, not damaged, simply empty. 50,000 soldiers had vanished without a trace. This is impossible, Thurix whispered. Where are my troops? The answer came from the main screen as a new image appeared. A human in a black uniform stood in what had been Thurix's own command bunker. Behind him, Krex equipment still functioned normally, but every alien soldier was gone. General Thurix, the human spoke calmly. My name is Commander Jake Morrison. Your forces have been eliminated. You have exactly 1 hour to evacuate this planet before we eliminate you as well. The transmission ended and Thurix stared at the empty screen. His mind could not process what had happened. An entire occupation army had disappeared in minutes. Without sending a single distress call. Similar scenes played out across 12 systems as the Ghost Fleet struck simultaneously. Council forces found themselves facing an enemy that appeared from nowhere, struck with impossible precision, and vanished before any response was possible, Admiral Helen Torres commanded. Humanity's response from a mobile command ship that phased between dimensions. The technology still amazed her even after months of training. Earth scientists had been studying exotic physics for decades, waiting for the day they would need weapons that could defeat any alien technology. Phase 2 is complete, reported Captain Sam Rivers from his position aboard the experimental dreadnought Retribution. All primary targets have been neutralized. Council forces are in full retreat across the occupied systems. Excellent, Helen replied. Initiate Phase 3. It's time to show them what human creativity can accomplish. On the Council homeworld of Villani Prime, Trade Minister Nina Foster sat in her office reviewing economic reports. She appeared to be a middle-aged human woman who had been granted special trading privileges by the Villani government. Her company had operated in Council space for over 15 years, building trust and establishing connections, but Nina Foster was not who she appeared to be. She was Agent Nina Foster of Earth Intelligence, and she had been waiting for this moment for most of her adult life. Nina activated a quantum device hidden in her desk drawer. The device began broadcasting a virus through the planet's entire computer network. Within minutes, every system on Villani Prime began shutting down. Power grids failed, transportation networks stopped, communication arrays went offline. Banking systems crashed. Similar attacks occurred simultaneously on the homeworlds of all 5 Council species. Humans who had posed as traders, diplomats, and researchers for decades revealed their true purpose. The Council's infrastructure crumbled as agents activated devices that had been positioned years earlier. Dr. Rachel Stone watched the results from her command center on Earth. Project Lazarus had been more than advanced weapons. It included psychological warfare programs designed to break alien morale. Activate the fear protocols, Dr. Stone ordered. Across Council space, alien communication networks began receiving transmissions of human voices. But these were not surrender messages or pleas for mercy. They were the recorded screams of every human who had died in the initial attack, broadcast with quantum enhancement that made them impossible to block or ignore. The message was clear. In every language the Council spoke, humanity remembered every atrocity. Every murdered child, every destroyed colony, every broken family. And now payment was being collected with interest that had been compounding for 3 months. The turning point came when Jake Morrison's task force intercepted the Council's primary battle fleet at the Meridian Nebula. Council Admiral Ixaris commanded over 200 ships, the largest military force the galaxy had ever assembled. Jake's Ghost Fleet numbered exactly 12 vessels. The odds seemed impossible until the human ships began demonstrating capabilities that violated everything. The Council thought they knew about physics. The first Council ship simply ceased to exist. No explosion, no debris, no energy signature. One moment it was there, the next moment the space it had occupied was empty. Jake's ships were using weapons that manipulated matter at the quantum level, unmaking targets by disrupting the bonds that held atoms together. All units, this is Ghost Leader, Jake broadcast on an open channel so the Council fleet could hear him. You wanted to study human technology. Allow me to provide a demonstration. Council Admiral Xeris watched in horror as his flagship sister ship simply vanished from existence. One moment the mighty dreadnought was there, bristling with weapons and shields. The next moment there was only empty space where 2,000 Krex warriors had been fighting. What kind of weapons are these? Xeris demanded from his bridge crew. His tactical officer's voice shook as he replied, "Unknown, Admiral. Our sensors cannot even detect how the humans are attacking. Their ships appear and disappear at will." Jake Morrison's ghost fleet moved through the Council formation like predators hunting prey. The human ships phased in and out of normal space, striking without warning and vanishing before the aliens could respond. Each attack left another Council vessel completely destroyed, but this was not the random destruction of a conventional battle. Jake had studied every Council ship design, every tactical doctrine, every command structure. He was systematically eliminating the aliens' ability to coordinate their forces. Target their command ships first, Jake ordered his fleet, then their communication relays. Leave the smaller vessels for last. I want them to watch their entire Navy die piece by piece. Captain Sam Rivers commanded the dreadnought Retribution as it materialized directly behind the Council flagship. His quantum disruption cannons fired once, and Admiral Xeris's ship began breaking apart at the molecular level. The proud vessel that had conquered dozens of worlds dissolved like sugar in water on the Villani homeworld. Prime Leader Korath stood in his emergency command bunker and tried to understand the reports flooding in from across Council space. Every major military installation was under attack. Every communication network was compromised. Every government facility was being systematically destroyed. How many ships have we lost? Korath asked his military advisor. Over half the fleet. Prime Leader, the advisor replied with barely controlled panic. The humans are not engaging in traditional warfare. They strike critical targets and disappear. Our forces cannot even locate them to fight back. Korath's hands trembled as he accessed the latest intelligence reports. Human agents who had operated in Council space for decades were revealing their true identities. Trade agreements that had seemed beneficial to alien worlds were actually part of elaborate intelligence-gathering operations. Even trusted diplomatic staff were turning out to be Earth spies. Agent Nina Foster stood in the Villani, capital's main power distribution center, and watched the city's lights go out one by one. Her quantum virus had infected every system on the planet. Transportation stopped. Manufacturing ceased. Government buildings went dark, but Nina was not content with simply causing infrastructure failure. She activated a second program that began broadcasting messages throughout the planet's communication network. Citizens of Villani Prime, her recorded voice spoke in perfect Villani language. Your leaders told you that humans were primitive and weak. They said we would make good slaves for your empire. Look around you now and see how wrong they were. Similar broadcasts were occurring on all 5 Council homeworlds. The aliens who had celebrated humanity's destruction were now cowering in darkness, while human voices explained exactly what was happening to them. Dr. Marcus Webb coordinated the assault from his command center on Earth. The weapons his team had developed were performing beyond their most optimistic projections. Quantum manipulation technology allowed human ships to exist partially outside normal spacetime, making them nearly impossible to detect or target. Status report from all battle groups, Dr. Webb requested. Battle Group Alpha has eliminated the Krex 7th Fleet, came the first response. No survivors. Battle Group Beta destroyed the Torvik Merchant Marine, reported another commander. Their trade routes are completely severed. Battle Group Gamma finished with the Zephyrian science vessels, added a third voice. Their research stations are offline. Dr. Webb nodded with grim satisfaction. The Council had made the mistake of revealing their true nature before understanding what humanity was capable of. Now they were learning that humans did not simply defend themselves. When threatened with extinction, they became something far More dangerous. Admiral Helen Torres received reports of the campaign's progress from her mobile command ship. The vessel existed in a state of quantum flux, allowing it to appear anywhere in known space within minutes. From this position, she could coordinate humanity's response across dozens of star systems simultaneously. "Helen, this is President Coleman," came a transmission from Earth. "The Council is requesting negotiations through neutral channels. They claim they want to discuss terms." Helen's expression hardened. "What terms could there possibly be, Mr. President?" "They tried to exterminate our entire species. They enslaved our people. They murdered our children." "I know," Coleman replied. "But some of our allies are suggesting that we show mercy, that we prove we're better than they are." Helen looked at the tactical display showing human forces systematically dismantling Council military power across the galaxy. "Mr. President, with respect, this is not about being better than them. This is about making sure they never threaten another species the way they threatened us." The conversation was interrupted by urgent alerts from multiple battle zones. Council forces were attempting desperate counterattacks against human positions, but their efforts only demonstrated how completely they had misunderstood their opponents. On the industrial world of Krex Prime, General Thurix led a massive assault against what appeared to be a small human facility. His remaining forces numbered in the tens of thousands. Intelligence suggested the humans had fewer than 50 defenders. The attack began with orbital bombardment from Krex battle cruisers. The human facility's shields absorbed the punishment without apparent strain. Then Thorix ordered his ground forces to advance. The human defenders did not try to hold defensive positions. Instead, they seemed to fade into the industrial landscape like ghosts. Krex soldiers found themselves fighting shadows that struck from impossible angles and vanished before retaliation was possible, within hours. Thurix's army had been reduced to scattered survivors hiding in the ruins of their own equipment. The human facility remained undamaged and its defenders had suffered no casualties. Similar scenarios played out wherever Council forces attempted to fight back. Human technology had advanced far beyond anything the aliens possessed. Worse, human tactical thinking had evolved to exploit every weakness in Council military doctrine. Dr. Rachel Stone monitored the psychological warfare programs from her laboratory. The fear protocols were working better than expected. Council soldiers were abandoning their positions rather than face human forces. Alien civilians were demanding their governments surrender before humanity's revenge consumed their entire civilization. Phase 4 is ready for implementation, Dr. Stone reported to Admiral Torres. "We can begin targeting Council population centers if you give the order." Helen considered the option carefully. Humanity now possessed the ability to extinct the Council species, just as the Council had tried to extinct humanity. The weapons existed, the targeting data was available. One command from her would turn the tables completely, but something held her back. Not mercy for their enemies, but a recognition that genocide would change humanity itself. The Council had chosen to become monsters. Earth did not have to make the same choice. Negative on Phase 4, Helen decided. Continue military targets? Only when we win this war, I want our children to be proud of how we fought it. The decision would prove to be the right one, but not for reasons anyone could predict. Humanity's restraint would soon become another weapon more powerful than any quantum cannon. 6 months after the Council's betrayal, Prime Leader Korath sat alone in what remained of the Great Assembly Hall. Half the seats were empty, their occupants either dead or fled to distant corners of the galaxy. The once proud chamber that had ruled thousands of worlds now felt like a tomb. The massive screens that had once displayed the glory of Council civilization now showed nothing but reports of defeat. The Krex Empire had lost 90% of its military fleet. The Torvac trade networks had collapsed completely. Zephyrion research stations floated dark and abandoned. Even the mysterious Axiom Collective had withdrawn to their hidden worlds and refused all communication. Ambassador Lisa Grant walked into the chamber flanked by human marines in black armor. She still bore scars from her captivity, but her steps were steady and her eyes were cold as winter steel. Behind her came Admiral Helen Torres and Commander Jake Morrison, representing the military force that had brought the galaxy's greatest empire to its knees. Members of the former Galactic Council, Lisa spoke into the silence. Her voice carried to every corner of the vast chamber through speakers that had once announced the conquest of innocent worlds. I bring terms from Earth. Korath struggled. To his feet, his silver robes now dirty and torn. Ambassador Grant, surely we can negotiate some form of accommodation. The Council acknowledges that mistakes were made. Mistakes? Lisa's voice cut through his words like a blade. You call the attempted genocide of my species a mistake? Jake Morrison stepped forward and activated a holographic display. Images filled the air above the assembly floor. Human colonies burning. Families torn apart. Children crying for parents who would never return. The faces of 3 million murdered civilians stared down at the surviving council members. These were not mistakes, Jake said quietly. These were deliberate acts of extermination carried out by your military forces under direct orders from this chamber. Admiral Helen Torres moved to the center of the assembly floor. In her hands, she carried a device that made several council members flinch with recognition. It was a quantum communicator connected directly to Earth's military command. President Coleman will now address what remains of your government. Helen announced. The main screen flickered to life, showing President Frank Coleman in the White House Situation Room. Behind him stood the leaders of humanity's military and scientific communities. Dr. Marcus Webb was there, along with Dr. Rachel Stone and dozens of others who had spent decades preparing for this moment. Former members of the Galactic Council, President Coleman spoke with the authority of a species that had faced extinction and emerged victorious. 6 months ago, you made a choice to destroy humanity. Today, we are here to inform you of the consequences of that choice. Korath tried to interrupt, but Coleman continued without pause. The Galactic Council as a governing body is hereby dissolved. Your military forces will be disbanded under human supervision. Your governments will be restructured to ensure they never again threaten peaceful species. Reparations will be paid to humanity for the damage you have inflicted. A Torvek representative stood shakily from his seat. You cannot simply dictate terms to sovereign civilizations. There are laws, protocols. Your laws died with the first human child your soldiers murdered, Admiral Torres replied. You chose to operate outside civilized behavior. Now you will live with the results. Commander Jake Morrison activated another display showing the current military situation across the galaxy. Red markers indicated the positions of human fleets. There were hundreds of them, far more than the Council had ever imagined possible. The forces that defeated your armies represent less than 10% of humanity's actual military capability, Jake explained calmly. Earth has been preparing for this scenario for 50 years. Every ship you destroyed, every base you captured, every tactic you observed was part of a defensive screen hiding our true strength. Dr. Marcus Webb's image appeared on the communication screen. The weapons we used against your fleets are already obsolete. My teams have developed systems that make quantum disruption technology look primitive. We chose not to use them because we wanted some of you to survive this encounter. The council members looked around the chamber with growing horror. They had thought humanity's response was devastating. Now they learned it had been restrained. Why? Asked a Zephyrian scholar, her ancient voice filled with confusion. If you possess such power, why show any mercy at all? Lisa Grant smiled, but there was no warmth in the expression. Because we want the galaxy to remember what happens when someone tries to exterminate humanity? Dead civilizations cannot serve? As examples to others? President Coleman reappeared on the screen. The terms are not negotiable. Council military forces will surrender immediately. All human colonies will be returned to Earth's control. War reparations will be paid over the next century. Any species that refuses these terms will be removed from the galaxy permanently. Korath fell back into his seat, the reality of complete defeat finally settling over him. What assurance do we have that humanity will honor these agreements? That you will not simply eliminate us when it suits your purposes? Admiral Torres stepped closer to the Villani leader. You have the same assurance you gave us when you promised peace and friendship. The difference is that humans actually keep their word. The chamber fell silent as the implications became clear. The council had demonstrated their true nature. Through treachery and genocide, humanity had demonstrated their true nature through overwhelming force applied with surgical precision. There is one more thing, Lisa announced. The galaxy will learn the truth about what happened here. Every species will know that the Council attempted genocide against humanity and failed. They will know that we could have responded with extinction, but chose restraint instead. Jake Morrison activated a final display showing human patrol routes throughout the galaxy. These are our new security zones. Any species that threatens innocent worlds will find themselves facing Earth's military. We have decided that the galaxy needs better guardians than the Council provided. The surviving Council members sat in stunned silence as the humans prepared to leave. Their 1,000-year empire had been destroyed in 6 months by a species they had dismissed as primitive. Worse, humanity was not content with simple victory. They were reshaping the entire galactic order. As the human delegation reached the chamber. Doors, Korath found his voice one last time. Why did you hide such power from us? If we had known what you were capable of, this war never would have started. Lisa Grant paused and looked back at the broken leader. That was exactly the point. We hoped that 30 years of peaceful contact would show you our true nature. Instead, you saw only what you wanted to see. You mistook our desire for peace as weakness. You confused our restraint with inability. She walked back to stand directly in front of Korath. Let me be very clear about something. Earth has been watching the galaxy for over a century. We knew about your wars, your conquests, your treatment of weaker species. We prepared for the day you would come for us because we understood what you really were. Admiral Torres joined her. The galaxy is under new management now. Species that choose peace will find humanity to be generous allies. Species that choose conquest will discover why the Council's military no longer exists. The humans left the chamber, their footsteps echoing in the vast empty space. Behind them, the survivors of the Galactic Council faced a new reality. They had awakened something they could not control or defeat. Humanity had not simply won a war. They had announced their arrival as the galaxy's new dominant power. In the months that followed, other species learned the same lesson the Council had discovered too late. Humans appeared friendly and peaceful until threatened with extinction. Then they became something far more dangerous than any empire the galaxy had ever known. They became humanity unleashed.